Confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Those who are attending in online. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Right, guys. Yeah. All right. Good morning, guys. Right, sir. And check it what we completed in the last session. And now see this. We are discussing about steps to prepare first web application. In the steps to prepare first web application, what exactly the steps here we're having there? First one is download and install server software. Next one is download and install Java software and IDE editor, IDE or editor, whatever it may be. Already we had this step, not required to do this step explicitly. Next one, prepare web application architecture. Prepare what there? Web application architecture. And prepare deployment descriptor. Prepare web resources like HTMLs, servlets, JSPs, and so on. Start the server and deploy web application, access the web application. These are overall steps here what you are having clearly. Out of all these steps, what we completed there, very first one is completed. Download and install server, Tomcat server. Next, already you have done it previously. Download and install Java software and the related editor or IDE. That already we have done it. Then we are ready with Eclipse IDE. We are ready with the Java version there. Then what next one here? Prepare web application architecture. That is a point here we have to understand today. Okay. Right, so now let's see this one. Prepare web application architecture. All right, sir. In general, up to now, we prepared our Java programs. How we prepared our Java programs there? Just by taking one folder. In that folder, we prepared .java file. In the same folder, we prepared .class file. Then we are executing that Java programs. That is what we have done in general. Am I right or not? Up to now. But web applications web applications are having web applications are having a separated directory structure. It must be created in a web apps folder under Tomcat. Observe carefully, under which folder there? No, web apps folder. Match. Web applications have a separate directory structure. It must be created in the web apps folder under Tomcat. All right, now let me show this total directory structure here clearly now. But more concentration, all of you know. Important thing here I'm talking that entire web application architecture here we have to understand clearly. Now tell me all of you know where I install my Tomcat server under C drive, directly C drive, I install Tomcat server. In a C drive, we install Tomcat server. So the name of this Tomcat server is what there? Tomcat 10.0. This is the name that we installed there. When we install this Tomcat server, inside the Tomcat server, so many folders are available. What are the various folders that we are going to understand now? Very first one is like what there? Bin folder. Inside this bin folder, what things are existed here? .bat files are available and .exe files are available. For what purpose it able to provide the data actually? Right, sir. Understand my point here? In a Tomcat server, in a Tomcat 10.0 folder, number of folders are existed here. All right, first one is like what I'm telling there, bin folder. Bin folder contains .exe and .bat files to start the server and to shut down the server. To start the server or shut down the server, bin folder. See, awareness is required. In general, bin folder inside the Tomcat contains what there? Some .exe or .bat files to start the server and to shut down the server. These things are existed here. That is one thing here I'm telling there. Next one is after that. Next one is conf folder is existed. Already we have seen that yesterday. Conf folder. .cfg or maybe conf folder. All right, the name itself is giving clarity. Conf folder is containing what there? .xml files. What there? XML files. What is the purpose of this conf folder? You know, right? Purpose of this conf folder is what there contains .xml files representing server configuration details. Server configuration details, Tomcat users details, Tomcat users details, and so on. Right, so this is about like what their conf folder. Right. Next one, after that, after understanding this conf, no. Next, another important folder that is what their lib folder. Another important folder is like what their lib folder. Inside this lib folder, we are able to have like what their .jar files. These .jar files are representing what their servlet library, some libraries which are required for Tomcat server. Libraries which are required for what their Tomcat server, which are required for Tomcat server as well as for what their for our web applications also. All right, sir. Lib. Another one is what their lib. All right, sir. Lib contains .jar files representing libraries which are required to the Tomcat server. As of now, I'm telling there which are required for only Tomcat server. Especially we need to understand servlet-api.jar file is available, which maintains servlet's library. Which maintains what there? Servlet library. To compile our servlet program, we require servlet library. So we have to set class path to the that library, servlet-api.jar. That we are going to see there clearly. Don't worry. Right, sir. Then after that, after completion of this fourth one. Now here, after that, another one is like what there? Temp folder. Temp folder. Temp folder containing some folders, maybe some temporary files or something else. No specific files content here. Some temporaries are going to be maintained here. No? Right, sir. Temp folder contains some temporary files, which are generated by Tomcat server. But as per my view, I have not seen any file inside the temp folder previously. But maybe it may be created or it may be deleted by Tomcat server in the execution of our programs there. But leave this one. Anyway, temp folder, its main intention is what there for storing temporary data. Next one, after that, after understanding this temp folder there, another thing is like what there, work folder. Another one is what there, work folder. Right, sir. Inside this work folder, duplicate objects are going to be maintained. Duplicate objects in the sense, for every application which we deployed in our server, Tomcat server, there is a duplicate application. There is a duplicate application which is created by Tomcat server. So actual processing is going on this application only, not on our prepared application. For example, if I deploy an application to the server, for that one peer application is created inside the Tomcat server. The Tomcat server will work on that peer application only. Peer application in the sense what there? Same as this duplicate application will be created. Over the duplicate application, it able to perform some activities. So Tomcat server will work on this peer application only. Observe carefully. So here the point is like what there? Now work folder contains peer applications of the applications which we deployed in a Tomcat server in order to perform or in order to execute, simply speaking, in order to execute. One simple example I'm telling there. By this we can understand clearly. Peer application, or we may say like what there, duplicate application. Right. What is the simple point here I'm telling to you? Observe carefully. JSP page is available. Practical, I can show that in the future. JSP page is available. How JSP pages are going to be executed actually? When we submit request from client to the particular JSP page, JSP container will receive that request. JSP container first will convert that JSP page to the servlet. For example, abc.jsp is available. Understand my point now? Now automatically a servlet will be created. How the servlet will be created? abc underscore jsp dot java. abc underscore jsp dot java. A servlet file will be created. Then container, JSP container will execute that servlet and giving some response back to the respective client. That's okay. But here JSP page is converted to the servlet or not? Where that generated servlet will be maintained, where the generated servlet will be stored. Right. For that purpose, we need to go for what their work folder. But actually, in our application, servlet will not be created. Whatever the application we are keeping in our Tomcat server, in our application, the servlet will not be created. For our application, a duplicate application will be created in work folder. Inside the duplicate application, the generated servlet class will be stored. So it is required to get, it is necessary or it is required to get some duplicate application or not. The Tomcat internal work, for the sake of Tomcat internal working purpose, it will create a duplicate application under what their work folder. So in that way, so many requirements are available for getting duplicate applications. That's why work folder was provided by like what there, the Tomcat server. That is another one here. Next one, apart from this, another thing is like what I'm telling there is also an important one. All right, logs folder. Inside this logs folder, we are able to see .txt files max, or maybe .log. either .txt or we can say like what there .log. Either of these files here we are able to see. What is the purpose of this folder actually? What is the purpose of this logs folder here? Observe carefully. Already the logbooks in general, logbooks in every office, logbooks are available. When we enter into the office now, there we have to enter our log. When you want to go for lunch, there we have to enter log. When you come back from lunch, you have to enter a log. When you check out from the company, there we have to enter a log. About you, all activities must be noted or not. That book is nothing but what their logbook. Similarly, every server will maintain a logbook. In that logs, what will happen there? When we start the server is started in this particular time, maintain the data. When we shut down the server is shut down in this particular time, data will be maintained. When we deploy an application, this application is deployed in this particular time, maintained in the logbook. Understand my point here? Another one here. When I undeploy the web application, this application is undeployed in this particular time. Understand my point? While start up the server, if any error is coming there, exception is coming while start up the server in this particular time, in this location, log will be maintained. Got it or not? So that logs are maintained inside like what folder there? No, logs folder. Logs are maintained inside like what there? Logs folder. There we can see all the content here, right? Now understand this clearly. Contains log files, contains .log files to get or to trace or to provide a status of all the activities of the servers. Activities of the server. Right. Now this is like what their logs. Got it or not? Now just we will see that all these folders are exist or not. But one more important folder I want to say. Then after that I will go for this content here. Another important thing is like what their web apps folder. This is our required folder. Right, sir? This is our what their required folder. Web apps folder contains all of our web applications which we are preparing, which we prepared or which we deployed, which we prepared or which we deployed. Web apps, the name itself is giving clarity. No, web apps folder is for the sake of our applications. Web apps is for the sake of our what their applications. Observe carefully. In the diagram I have not specified that. Now here I want to specify like what their web apps folder. This is for the sake of our applications. Now let me write these web apps. Okay, right. So now just give a minute of time. Advanced Java. Servlets. Right. It's okay, fine. Now this is like what I'm telling to you, web apps folder here now. Right, sir. I'll show this point here. But first of all, let us see. Let us open our directory structure. In the directory structure here, we have to go with what there C drive. Inside the C drive, where I installed the Tomcat here, here it is available. Open Tomcat. Where see this one, what we are having there now? Bin. Inside the bin, what files are available here? Batch files and application. Application is nothing but .exe files. These things are existed here now. So to start the server, here we have to click on this one, or startup.batch file. To stop the server, close that window, or else here we are having like what there? Shutdown batch file here. Observe carefully. All the batch files are available. Conf folder. All XML files are available. We can see this one. XML files. All server configuration details are available with the server.xml, and Tomcat users details are available with what there? Tomcat-users.xml. Details are available here. Leave this. Lib folder. All these are jar files. All these are jar files. No, now here what jar file here we require there. Now observe carefully. Servlet API.jar file is available or not? Servlet API.jar file. This is for the sake of our servlets here that I required clearly. Okay, so many jar files are available. Leave this one. Logs folder. As of now, some logs are provided here. Observe carefully. Anyway, these are the logs. These are the logs. Some information here it is providing there. See, whether you may not understand immediately, but these are the logs here which are created. Yesterday, these logs are created. We can see this. Maybe different types of logs are available here. Right, sir. Now something else. Some logs might be then that server is started, HTML manager or host, or something else, whatever it may be. Something else. No. Local host. This here we have to open. Info main application context.log. Something else. Sir, context destroyed. Context destroyed. When I shut down the server, that we are getting there. Threads are created like this information. Right, Catalina something else, no, not required anyway. But about our server internal content here, it is maintaining actually this one. Different types of logs are available that we can create there. So where it is available there, no logs folder. Temp, I set you there. I have not seen anything as of now, but maybe while executing our applications, some temporary files might be created. When application is shut down, automatically the temporary files are going to be deleted here. But as of now, it's an empty. Leave it. Next one is web apps folder. I will talk with you later on. Work folder. Inside this work folder, our peer applications will be created. So far, I have not deployed any application. That's why we are not getting it. But one application, predefined application is available. There is a Catalina. That Catalina is existed again. We can understand this clearly. Local host, or maybe I will show why these applications are created actually. I will show that. Docs, examples, host manager, manager, root. These are like what they're already they are available with what their work. Got it or not? Okay. Now observe carefully. Now in Tomcat web apps. Observe one point here. When we install Tomcat server in our system, under web apps folder, by default, some applications are created which are provided by Tomcat server only. To run a Tomcat, to provide support for Tomcat server, default applications must be required inside the Tomcat. When we install Tomcat, automatically the default applications will be installed. What are the default applications there? Let us see this. These are the default applications. Docs, examples, host manager, manager, roach. These are by default applications. We have not prepared them. Automatically Tomcat server will provide these default applications. So for these are the applications which are available under web apps or not. But immediately, as per the nature of the Tomcat, it is creating duplicate applications for all of them under work folder or not. When these applications, see whether these applications are created by Tomcat or created by developer, that doesn't matter. Once application is available under web apps, in the sense, for it a duplicate application must be created under work folder. All right, how these applications are created under work folder there? Work Catalina. Catalina in the sense what their internal part of the Tomcat. Container, in other words, we can say like what their container type, Catalina. Local host, current system. There, all the peer applications are available or not? All the duplicate applications are available or not? So there is a proof here we can understand about this work folder. Right, so leave this one here. Now this is exactly the point here we can understand. Next one is what there? Web apps. Web apps already we have taken that. And now let's see this one here now. Inside the web apps, it is going to store our applications data. It's going to store what there? Our applications. So deploying web application in the sense providing application in this particular location only. Maintaining that application in this particular location only. All right, sir. All right, sir. How does Tomcat reads the web apps folders content? Which class or Tomcat server is doing this? It's not in our hand. It's totally internal concept of the Tomcat. I think so even Tomcat people also be not specifying that clearly. So this class is assigned to read the web apps from a web apps folder. All these things, no. As a developer, our awareness is what there. Web apps folder is available. There we have to keep that. But internally, if you want to see which internal classes, first of all, do you have any clarity on it? The Tomcat server is prepared in Java. In which language the Tomcat server is prepared there? Do you have any clarity on it? Of course, maybe Java, may not be Java. We don't know that. If it is Java, which class is using to read the applications in a sense? We don't have any awareness. Max, Jayant, do you have any awareness on it? Jayant, do you have any awareness on it? Okay, bootstrap.jar. Bootstrap.jar. Maybe. I don't know about it. Bootstrap.jar. I think already you got the answer, right? So already you're having answer, right? Now you're checking my knowledge. Already you know the answer, then you're asking the question there, right? Huh? Right, sir. That's okay, fine. And one more point. These configuration details are specific to Tomcat, I'm telling you. This directory structure. See, under this Tomcat 10.0, what are the folders are available, and all these things are what there up to Tomcat server. If you go with WebLogic server, you may not see this type of configuration details. These many folders, this type of folders you may not identify in WebLogic. WebLogic may have its own directories or folders there. See, overall, this structure, this folder structure is varied from one server to another server. Observe carefully what I'm telling them. Okay, sir. Now let's understand this clearly. So, web apps folder. Inside this web apps folder, we need to prepare like what there, our application folders, our applications. If we want to deploy some application there we have to use like what there, web apps folder. Understand it clearly. Right, sir. Now, under web apps folder, I'm preparing one application folder. Observe carefully. This is clearly my application folder. Clearly, this is clearly what their application folder. Now, like what there, just I want to write like what their application folder. Like this. For example, if it is a bank application, I want to prepare bank app. Or if it is something else like insurance application, I'll write like what their insurance app or something else application folder, which represents our total application. It represents our total applications. That is application folder here we are having. See, I'm using red color box there, then black color boxes. Black color boxes are provided by Tomcat by default. Now red color boxes onwards we have to do, especially we have to write something. Got it or not? Okay, fine. Now inside this application folder, what some other folders are available? Right, optionally we are going to create some other folders as per our requirement. This is purely what they're optional, not mandatory to write all these files and folders here under application folder. These are our own interest. As per our own interest, we are going to write these folders there. Now observe carefully. First of all, might be we may use like what there themes folder. Themes folder. That themes folder we are able to have like what there .jpg files or .png files or maybe some other files for the sake of background themes and all. For the sake of background scenario, background sceneries, or maybe something else. For the sake of logos, maybe. If you have any image related things, no, that means themes, especially themes kind of things, no, there we are able to provide this kind of things, no. Or maybe either we can use themes, or maybe we may go with what they say, for example, not like that. This one. I want to say like what their images, for example. Of course, the names are also be optional. Any name we can use there, but general naming convention I'm telling there. Images dot jpg that we want to provide there. That's okay, fine. All right, sir. Now observe carefully. Then what we are preparing the document here. Up to now, here these many things here we provided web apps. Next point is like what there. All right, sir. In the Tomcat server, we will deploy our applications under web apps folder. In general, our application contains the following folders. Our applications contains what are the following folders. Right, sir. What folders are available? Application folder contains the following folders. First one is like what there images folder. Right, sir. Background images, logos, and so on. So this images folder is able to manage what their background images or logos and so on. This is one thing. Now observe carefully. Then after that, I think so. Now here we are able to use what there. In general, we are going to use themes folder for the sake of like what there .css files. Observe carefully. Themes folder is for the sake of what there .css. Or maybe instead of using the themes, no, we can use directly CSS folder also. So again, I'm telling there the standard naming convention I'm telling there, but we can change the names. See, this is user defined application. Anything, any name we can use. Even for this images also, not required to use that images folder. Any name here we can provide. Pictures or something else here we can write. Okay, but accessing is totally depending on our implementation here. But some standard conventions here I'm telling to you, .css files here we are going to maintain inside the themes folder. Right, sir. Observe carefully. Themes folder .css files. Next one is after that .css and so on. Some other related files here we can provide. Next one is after that you are going to maintain that. Next one is like what there literature. Another folder is like what there literature. Literature. Literature folder contains like what there docs or docx, whatever it may be. For the sake of documentation about our application, if you want to maintain some documentation there, or maybe your application required any documentations part of the application, there we are going to maintain the documents under this literature folder. All right, sir. Now the third one is like what there literature. All right, sir. Literature contains what there doc or maybe docx and so on. This type of files here we are able to provide. Next one is after this literature folder, there what we are going to provide there. Another one is like what I'm telling to you. Observe carefully. This is like what there SRC folder. What is SRC actually? Java files. SRC folder Java files. Observe carefully. SRC contains like what there Java files, source code. Java files under packages or without packages, that doesn't matter. Java files. Right, sir. And so on this. Next one is after this. Now another thing here we are going to prepare like what there. Now this is like what I'm telling to you HTML files. That means directly here we can say like what there HTMLs. Inside this HTMLs, what we are able to prepare there HTML file. HTML. Again I'm telling there that folder is not mandatory. Everything we can provide under directly application folder. HTML files. Right, sir. In general, HTMLs. Alright, sir. Contains like what there HTML files for the sake of this. Next one is a JSP. Means that JSP files. JSP files. Right, sir. For the sake of providing these JSPs also here we are able to provide like what there JSP files. Observe carefully. Alright, sir. Now inside this here we can provide JSP files. I'll give one conclusion. Final conclusion I will give there for all. Don't worry. But standard conventions I'm giving there. As per this we are going to provide JSPs. There we can provide like what there .JSP files. All right. Along with all these, we required one more file. What is that file here? We require there. Everybody understand this file here. Folder, not file. One folder here we require there. All right. That folder is WebINF folder. That folder is like what there WebINF folder. WebINF folder. Right, now here we can specify the like this. Next another one is like what there WebINF folder. All right, sir. Now contains like what there web application resources. All right, sir. Web application namesake I'm giving there web application resources, no, I will give some other point here now. Observe carefully. Under application folder, all the above folders are not mandatory except WebINF folder. Okay. Next one is we can provide all the files, like what are the files here? .jpg comma .doc comma, then what next one here? .css comma, then what next one here? .htmls comma .jsps and so on. Directly we can put all the files like under application folder, without taking specific folders, right sir? Without taking what their specific folders. No need to have specific folders here. These many folders here we have written or not? Not required to take these many folders. No. Directly we can write what there? All these files under application folder. That is also be possible. But standard way is what there? Taking these many folders for the sake of maintaining each and every content here. Clear or not? Alright, sir. Now after that, now observe carefully. Under application folder, WebINF folder is able to manage the protected resources which are more specific to the server. I'll give clarity on this particular point, guys, later on. Why I'm giving this point here? More protected. Under the application folder, WebINF folder is able to manage the protected resources which are more specific to the server. I will talk about this point immediately. You may not understand this point here, but later on I'll give more clarity on it. But try to understand what files and folders are available under WebINF folder. Then let's understand this. After that, I'll explain to you. In WebINF folder, we will have the following files and folders. Now let's see this one. All right, sir. The very first one here, I'm telling to you, very first one, everybody must understand this. That file is like what there? Web.xml file. Web.xml file. The most important one here in web applications now. Right. It is deployment to descriptor. Contains all the all the configuration details of our applications like configuration details of our applications. Only one application, not all the applications. All right, sir. Now configuration details of a particular application, of the present application, which includes servlets configuration, JSP's configuration, JSS configuration, and so on. So many, filters configurations, and so on, which are required for our applications. Deployment descriptor contains all configuration details of the present application, which includes servlets configuration, JSP's configuration, filters configuration, and so on, which are required by the container, in order to find the server side resource, and in order to execute server side resource. We'll get more clarity while moving on to the content here, but as of now we have to understand like this. web.xml file. This is what there. So deployment descriptor contains all the configuration details of the present application, present web application, which includes servlet configurations, JSP configurations, filters configurations, and so on, which are required by the container in order to find the server-side resource and in order to execute the server-side resource. That's it. So brief information I've given there, but later on we are going to see more content here under this web ANF. Right. So now let's see this one. In the diagram here, we have to talk about it. That very first one is like what there, web.xml file. Direct to file only. It's direct to file only. It will not keep under any like a folder there. Direct to file only. That name is like what there, web.xml file. This is one file here we are able to have. Then where some code is available, some XML tags are available. Right, no need to think immediately. In the future, we are going to see the total XML content here. Don't worry for it. This is completed. After that, after completion of this web.xml file, next another important folder is required here. Another important folder is like what there, lib folder. Lib folder. Now inside this lib folder, here we are able to have what there, jar files. This lib folder contains what there, jar files. Of course, under Tomcat also be lib folder is available. Under our application also be lib folder is available. I'm telling clarity for you, understand this. Under Tomcat, lib folder contains jar files which are required for running Tomcat server. For internal purpose of the Tomcat server, some libraries are required. That libraries are maintained by lib folder under Tomcat 10.0. But this lib folder under WebINF lib folder is available now. This lib folder contains jar files. These jar files are required for our web application. Under WebINF lib folder contains some jar files there. That jar files are required for our application, not for Tomcat server. For Tomcat server, some libraries are required which are provided by the lib folder, which is available under Tomcat folder. But in our application, in our WebINF folder, if you have lib folder, you're able to provide jar files for our application purpose. Example, I'm going to prepare some registration application, user registration form, user registration application I'm preparing. Now, user registration application wants to interact with the database or not? Come on guys, user registration application wants to interact with the database or not? For example, registration servlet I'm going to prepare. The servlet has to interact with the database or not? If you want to connect with the database, then we require one jar file, driver jar file. What driver jar file is required there? OJDBC 11.jar or MySQL connector jar. So these many jar files are required or not? But where we are going to keep all the jar files now? Where we are providing all the jar files now? These many jar files we have to keep under lib folder. See, in a normal JDBC program, we set class path, the jar files in the class path or not. That means in the IDE, we are providing the jar files in a build path or not. Build path in the sense class path internally. So in the same way, our application also will require the jar files. Our application also will require jar files. That means driver jar file is required. So whenever the driver jar file is required, just directly keep the jar file under lib folder. If we keep the jar file under lib folder, automatically our servlet will use that jar files. Our servlet will interact with the database automatically. This is almost equal to setting class path environment variable only. Keeping jar file in lib folder is almost the same as what they're setting class path environment variable. Now extra not required to set class path environment variable. Automatically containers and our servlets will come to lib. There it will search for the jars now. Inside the jars it will check for what the required classes here. So our application required jar files are going to be provided inside this particular lib folder. That's the purpose here we can understand. All right, sir. Another one is like what the lib folder. All right, sir. It includes all the jar files, all the libraries in the form of jar files which are required by the present application. Which are required by the present application. All right, sir. Observe carefully. One small note here I'm telling there. Under Tomcat 10.0 folder, there is a lib folder. It contains all the libraries in the form of jar files. It contains all the libraries in the form of jar files which are required by the Tomcat server, which are required by the Tomcat server. Got it or not? Now this note is giving more clarity. What is the difference between lib folder under Tomcat 10.0 under our WebINF folder? Our WebINF folder lib folder contains .jar files which are required by our application. But under Tomcat 10.0 folder, there is a lib folder. It contains all the libraries in the form of what there jar files which are required by the Tomcat server. That is another point here we can understand. This is about like what there lib folder here. We can understand this clearly. Next one, after understanding this lib folder, one more folder here we require here. This is very important folder. That folder is like what there. You can understand classes folder. That folder is like what there classes folder. This classes folder is able to have number of dot class files. The classes folder is able to have what there number of dot class files. What are these dot class files actually? What dot class files are existed here? No, maybe servlet dot class files. Servlet is not another one, Java class only. Servlet dot class files. Maybe filter dot class files. Filter is also not any other one. That is what there dot class files only. Java file only. Next one is the listeners dot class files. Listeners are also be like what there normal Java class only, but they are going to be available at a server. These many things are available under like what there classes folder. Also careful. So now get the last one. Third one is like what I'm telling to you classes folder. Classes folder. It will include or it includes all the dot class files, all the dot class files representing all the dot class files representing what they representing servlets, comma filters, comma listeners, and so on. Representing what they servlets, filters, listeners, and so on. These are exactly the files and folders here we are having clearly. Right. Now totally this is our web application architecture. Got it or not? Now tell me guys. All of you now tell me. Color quotations are given there. Black color folders and files provided by Tomcat server automatically when we install Tomcat server. Red color folders and blue color folders must be created by us. Okay, where which folders are mandatory for us? Which folders are mandatory and which folders are optional for us? No, application folder is mandatory. Then after that, WebINF folder is mandatory, and classes folder is what they're mandatory. These folders are mandatory, and the remaining all are optional. May provide, may not provide. Say for example, I want to write a simple, very simple hello world program. These many things are not required for me. Not just I want to prepare one servlet. Through that servlet, I want to display the data. Web.xml file I'm going to prepare. Even web.xml file is also be optional, not mandatory. Simple servlet class I want to write where I'm going to display welcome to Durgasoft, then finish. I want to finish it. So in this case, all remaining files and folders are optional, not mandatory to provide all of them. But which things we require, that one here we are able to provide in our applications. I given some conventions also, how to manage all of them. So, but overall, this is about like what their web application architecture. All of you are getting clarity or not? Right, sir. See, forget about this Tomcat and its related content here. Every time we have to talk about what their application folder onwards. If I want to prepare any login application, what I will do? Manually, if you want to prepare any login application, then what I will do? Directly, I will go with the web apps folder. Inside the web apps folder, I will prepare a folder. That folder is representing my login app. Inside this WebINF folder, inside this classes folder, then I'll start to provide files. Web.xml file I'll provide. .java files or .class files like this here I'm going to provide. That totally depends on our requirement here. How I'm going to do this. Okay. That's enough. But this is a diagram here we have to follow about this total web application architecture that we provided clearly. All right, so that's okay, fine. Listen, few more points here. Two more points here. Now try to understand these points now. All of you observe carefully. The above entire web application architecture. I'm not talking about Tomcat architecture. Web application architecture, application folder onwards, is divided into two parts. Entire web application architecture is divided into two parts. The above web application architecture is divided into the following two parts. All right, what are the two parts here? First one is, observe carefully, public area or client area. Second one is private area or a server area. Right, sir. The above, the complete web application architecture is divided into two parts. What are the two parts here? Public area or client area, private area or server area. Yes, sir. Got it or not? Now see this one. Red color boxes are public area, blue color boxes are private area. I said to you, WebINF information I have not discussed it completely because of this point only. WebINF and its content, what I given there, now check one time here. WebINF folder, information I have given there now. Alright, sir. See this one. WebINF folder is able to manage the protected resources which are more specific to the server. Now, what's the term I use there now for WebINF folder and its content here now? Private area, and what next one here? Server area. Then before the public area and client area. You'll see that. What is this public area and what is this private area? Actually, public area or client area. Right, sir. Observe carefully. The files and folders which are under application folder and which are outside of WebINF folder, which are in outside of the WebINF folder, are treated as public area or client area. But what is the specialty of this? Why this division is available? What we can get specific things about it now. Now I'm telling to you, observe carefully. The point is, if we keep any resource under public area, if we keep any resource like what I'm telling to you, HTML file or JSP file and so on and so on. If we keep any resource, an HTML file or JSP file and so on under public area, then we are able to access that resource directly with its name from client. No need to have any indirection, no need to have any alias names, no need to have any duplicate names. Directly with that resource name, we are able to access it. Example I'm telling you, now try to understand it now. If we keep resources like HTML files, JSP files, and so on under a public area, then we are able to access that resources directly with its name from the client. Example I'm telling to you, observe carefully. If we provide login form.html comma registration form.html under application folder, under the application folder login app. Application folder name is what there? Login app. then we are able to access login form dot html and registration form dot html with their names directly. Observe carefully, all of you know. Now, example I'm telling that http colon slash s localhost 1010 slash. In place of localhost, we can use some server IP address. But thought of it, my server is available in the same local machine here. http colon slash s localhost 1010 slash application name login app slash directly login form dot html. That's enough. Sir, got it or not? Directly, that file name we can use. That is a specialty of like what their public area. No restrictions are available to access this content here. Now, in place of this, then what we are able to provide there registration form.html. Directly we can access it. Not only these two, no, even we can access JSP pages also like this. There is no restriction for it. Directly it will be accessed. Got it or not? This is the point here we have to understand clearly. Next one is after completion of this, then what next point here I'm telling to you? Private area. Now let's come for this private area. This is about like whether public area or a client area. Public area or a client area, understand this. Similarly, what we are going to provide there, private area or a server area. Private area or what next one? Server area. Right, sir. What it able to do now? Observe carefully. The files and folders. The files and folders. The files and folders which are under the WebINF folder. WebINF folder. Which are under the WebINF folder. Are treated as private area or server area. That's a point. Under the WebINF folder. The files and folders which are under WebINF folder. Under the WebINF folder are treated as what their private area or server area. Then what is the specification for it now? If we keep resources, the resources like servlets, filters and so on, under private area, then we are able to access these resources through alias name only, which must be defined in a web.xml file. Understand this point here? If we keep resources like servlets, filters and so on under the private area, then we are able to access those resources through alias names only, which must be defined in the web.xml file. For every servlet, we need to define one alias name inside the web.xml file. Through this alias name only, we are able to access from the client. For every filter, if we define under classes folder, which must be configured in web.xml file, in web.xml file, some alias name we have to provide. Through that alias name only, we are able to access. Servers are not allowing us to access directly servlet class with its name. Servers are not allowing us to access filters directly with its name. For the servlets and filters and so on, so many components, we have to define some alias names. Through that alias names only, we are going to access these many components. Why? Because they are available under private area of the server, not under public area. Direct access is not available. Container must verify that request. How container is going to verify that? Container will take that request, container will go to web.xml file. In web.xml file, for that alias name, what exactly the servlet class is mapped, it will identify that. Then it will execute the respective servlet. So everything is going on under container only there. So that they are like what they're more specific to the server, which are required by the container. Container is going to execute them. This is the point here. In that way, containers have provided the reason. In that way, containers have provided that particular content here. So because of that reason, example I'm telling to you, observe carefully. All of you observe carefully. Example here I'm telling them. Understand this point clearly. If we keep login servlet dot class Java file only actually, comma register servlet dot class under classes folder, then we have to define alias names. Then we have to define alias names like login for login servlet dot class file, comma. Then what next one here? Here we provided. Just I need to define like what there slash login for login servlet dot class file. Next one is a slash reg for register servlet dot class file in a web.xml file. Of course, the names are not mandatory, not fixed. In place of login, we can use login servlet. In place of this register servlet, we can use register servlet also. Some name, whatever it may be, some name. All right, sir, in web.xml file. All right, sir. If we keep login servlet dot class registration servlet register servlet dot class under classes folder, then we have to define alias names like login for login servlet dot class file, comma slash reg for register servlet dot class file in web.xml file. In web.xml file. Okay. To access these web resources, we have to use the following URLs. We have to use the following URLs at a client browser. Now see this, I'll use that URL skip. What exactly that URL there? http:// localhost colon 1010 / login app. That login app is available under application is what there login app. Then inside this, just we have to provide like what there login. Of course, if you want to provide some input data, we can provide that. Right, uname is equal to ABC and upwd is equal to ABC123. Like this here, we can provide. That depends on our requirement. Similarly, what I am telling there, http:// localhost colon 1010 / say for example registration app, for example this times now slash reg. I think so. Then under the folder, under the classes folder, okay, no problem. Then question mark here we can take like what the uname is equal to ABC and uaddr is equal to like what there something else here we are able to provide like this, something else here we are able to provide. Now this is about like what their URLs. In that way here we are able to manage like what there all the URLs clearly. Yes, sir. All of you are getting clarity or not? All right, now this is exactly the meaning of like what their private area and like what their public area, client area, like what their server area. If the resources which are available under public area, client can access them directly with their names. But if we keep the resources under private area, client cannot access the resources directly with their name. Client can access the resources through alias names only, through the URL patterns only, not possible to access them directly. So this is what exactly the meaning of like what their private area or server area. Yes, sir. All of you are getting it or not clearly? No. Right, sir. So that's all, guys. Now that's all for today. Then tomorrow I'll continue this, and tomorrow we'll extend the same discussion. So as of now, what topic is completed here overall? Web application directory architecture we completed here. So not only this one, just at your home, just one time read the total content there so that we are able to get some awareness on it. Okay, then after that, tomorrow we are going to start with what there, some other content here, web.xml file or some other content we are going to discuss there, right? That's it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'll meet you tomorrow. Then take few minutes break and come back for spring class now. those are attending there. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, of course. Login API is a context path also we can call. No problem. Okay. But public area components are fixed, private area components are fixed. We are unable to change them. Okay. Thank you.